All right, I'm here. This is Sushi, this is Midnight, and this is their roadmap to success. Now, basically, they're both rescue dogs, correct? Midnight was on the was on the street somewhere in kind of a homeless situation, and so she's a little bit reactive to sounds, which is why we worked on this video above. She's kind of following her lead. She's a 9-month-old puppy, and so kind of, this is the benefit, the reason why you really don't want to get a puppy in if you have an adult dog until you've fixed all the adult dog's problems, because the puppy is going to practice whatever the adult dog does, good and desired behaviors and undesired behaviors. Yes, I'm talking about you. Okay, so we started off by going over the concept of marker words. Marker word is an indicator, the sound that you use when the dog does the thing that you want. So they're using the marker word, the guardian here is using the marker word of yes. So we say yes the instant the dog does the thing that we want, like sit. Yes. She didn't sit, she did. So if you're asking one dog to do something and the other one does, reward the one who does, yes. So if I'm doing this, I would go like here. Well, you got to get up to do this one. Yes. So as soon as the butt hits the ground, I say yes, and I would say the marker word for potty at the end of the potty, because that's what I'm asking for and I'm rewarding the dog. So your marker word clicker or the word is basically saying you just did what I want. I'm going to give you some reinforcement, a pet, some attention, or preferably a treat if possible. Okay, so then we went over when do you introduce cues. Most people introduce the cue or the command word way too early, and it confuses the dog because they don't know what it means. So for training, what we do is we just lure or manipulate or wait for the dog to do the action. The instant they do it, we say the marker word and provide them a treat, and we do that until the dog is just doing that action pretty much over and over again because they're getting treats for it. When I can reliably predict the dog's going to do it, I'm 90% certain the dog's going to do it, then I can say sit, lure the dog into a sit, say yes, and then put the treat in their mouth. Okay, we all went over hand targeting, which is an engagement exercise. The guardian's already done that, but she was doing it with a treat in her hand. So I want you to practice that again, but with no treat in your hand. And so touch, and then you throw your hand out if you know the dog's going to do it. If you know the dog's not going to do it, then you just throw your hand out and then say the marker word when they touch it. I have a video on marker words. I also have one on hand targeting. So if you have any questions or forget how to do that, message me. I'm happy to share those videos with you. We also went over the importance of teaching dogs manners. With children, we typically give them a do-over. Mommy, I want chocolate sundae right now. Would you like to ask for that again? Mommy, can I please have a chocolate sundae right now? Yes. When we can, we give them a do-over and we try to acquiesce to their wish so that they get reinforced and they learn that asking politely is something that we should do because it often gets me my way. For dogs, they often paw or nudge at the human, and then the human pets them. In this case, that's not going on. The guardian loves her dogs and is a very tactile person. She does a great job. But I think that sometimes Sushi was actually guarding the guardian's lap from Midnight. So Sushi's here. The dog is looking this way. So as a guardian, I can't see the expression on the dog's face. And they're black-faced dogs, which makes it hard to read their expressions as well. But I did notice there were times where Midnight didn't want to come any closer, because probably Sushi was saying, she's mine, my lap, you stay away. Well, and that's okay for her. She's not being mean, but she's being a puppy. She wants what she wants. Just because she wants something doesn't mean it's appropriate or right for her to get it. So, and the problem with this is if Sushi's on my lap and I'm petting Sushi and then Midnight approaches and Sushi gives Midnight a dirty look and I continue petting, Sushi thinks I rewarded her for giving the dirty look, and Sushi thinks I like you preventing Midnight from coming over here. That's accidental, but if it happens enough, we might train this dog to guard the lap from that dog. So I went over petting with a purpose, which is basically sit right there. So if you want to pet the dog, just ask the dog to sit or lie down or hand target. Don't ask for a shake or high five. And you ask once. If the dog does it, you say your marker word and pet here, 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 or here. If they don't do it, you just go back to painting pictures or writing a screenplay or checking some emails or watching TV or whatever it is. There's no correction, but the dog doesn't get what it wants. After a while, the dog is going to start sitting to prepay for that attention. When they do, make sure we say our marker word and pet them. Now the dog has learned how to say, please, can I get some pets? I'm sitting. Yes, we can. Also, I want you to be mindful and watch out. If one of the dogs is with you, like especially in your lap, especially if it's her, and you notice that Midnight is taking perpendicular lines to you, she might be guarding your lap. So if that's the case, we do something called Pear Treating. We have 2 treats. We say, come, give them a treat. So I can hold the treats far enough away where I can treat at the same time, but I can keep the dogs. If I go like this, that's when fights happen because they're both trying to get those treats. So at first I might start doing it here, but gradually I work my way up to the point where I'm having them sit here and they're sitting side by side, but it's a very progressive, gradual process. We also went over celebrating. So celebrating is basically petting the dog when it offers behaviors that you want, that you did not ask for, but that are desirable. So the dog looks at me. Yes. I didn't ask her to look, but she looked. I don't think you see her off camera, but as soon as she looked at me, I said yes, and then I gave her some attention. Every time the dog sits, lays down, looks at you. I taught my dog Quest to grumble this way. And when I come home, if he was all excited, and as soon as he stopped, I would ignore him when he's excited because I don't want to reward that behavior. And then one time he went, "Roo!" I thought that was funny. So yes, and I petted him under his chin. Now he comes up if he wants attention. He comes up and he sits in front of me and goes, "Roo!" Which is funny. But I just waited patiently for him to do it. And every time he did, I said the marker word, and I provided that reinforcement. And after a while, he does that. Now I can say, and that is his hand signal to do it. Now she just jumped on my lap. Is it okay for her to jump on my lap? Sure. I don't mind it, but she's kind of getting the impression that she can jump up on everyone's lap. So I usually don't pet dogs for jumping up on me when they want to. I try to make it something that I'm asking for. Otherwise, they get the perception that this is their magic ride and they can jump on my lap whenever they want. Now, petting a dog for no reason, is that okay? Sure, of course it is. But like I said, it's possible to accidentally pet a dog and reinforce a behavior you don't want. If she's guarding and snarling at her and I don't see it and I'm still petting her, that can be a problem. So be mindful about that. One thing you might, well, it's hard to see because they're bright. I've seen people put mirrors across their from the couch so you can actually see without going like that to see what's going on. But celebrating is the easiest way to train a dog as long as you get in the habit of it. And the guardian has already started to modify her behaviors. Like she's went over to pet, touch. So she didn't do what I wanted. Now she tried, so she wants some attention, but she didn't do what I wanted to do. Now I could still pet her. She's a puppy, it's okay. But a better thing to do, for a puppy, it's fine. But if I want to teach her to do something, it's closed. I'm gonna withhold that affection until she does the thing that I want, unless it's a hard thing and I'm doing something called shaping. Shaping is a concept we reward partial completion of an activity because it's too hard or too many steps for the dog to learn all at once. Okay, so celebrating is when the dog does something you want and you didn't ask for it. Remember, you only have 2 seconds to reward that dog. Petting with a purpose is if you would like to pet your dog, you ask your dog to do something for you first and then pet him. I'd like you to do that for really through the end of 2021. I want you to get in the habit of it. After that, if you're petting your dogs for no reason, absentmindedly, it helps us feel good. It releases stress and pressure. That's fine. But you might want to try to do it where you have one dog here, one dog here, so that you can pet them with both hands. And that way they're not infringing on each other. But if one of them is on your lap, make sure that you're not letting it guard the other one. We also went over creative forms of exercise. And Midnight's licking her feet to such an extent, it makes me think that she might have allergies to grass. There is a grass little pad on the balcony. So get that thing of AstroTurf and see if she'll walk on that. And it might help where she doesn't lick her paws anymore. You can ask your vet and just say, hey, I think she might be allergic to grass. They have a little test that they can do. But if we can find out what she's allergic to and prevent her from getting into it, she's going to feel a little bit better. If I'm irritated because of allergies or a cold or something like that, it's going to affect my psychology for other things as well. So for exercise, sniffing burns more energy on walks. The guardian right now keeps a very short leash. That also limits the dog's ability to move, which can actually limit their vocabulary. So we want the dog, I like to have a 6-foot lead and let the dog kind of go wherever it wants. Dogs this size, I would want a 3/4 of an inch leash, which is the same width as your collar. Right now she has like a full inch. It's got the loops and it's doubles. It's just way too heavy for the dogs. Let them sniff as long as it's safe to do so. If you see another, and every once in a while you're walking down the block and there's nobody there, if the dog's walking on this side, say, Sushi, hold out a treat. When she looks at you, do a turn. And when you complete the turn, give her that, say yes and give her the treat, take 3 or 4 steps that way, repeat the half turn, and then go back to the way you want. So every once in a while, you're going to kind of do an oblong donut. After a while, if you only do this when you see another dog, then you're going to turn and she's going to be looking for the other dog. But now she's like, my guardian, Elle, is just kind of a weirdo. Sometimes she likes to do a half turn, then she goes and another half turn, then we go back to the direction we were going. But that becomes normal. So when you do it, when you see another dog, the dog's like, whatever, and you just keep going the other way. You got your dogs out of the situation before they had to. The dogs are barking and reacting. I think they're doing it either they're excited, they want to play with the dog, or want the other dog to go away. At the dog park, she does great, but on the leash, she has problems. So that tense leash might be contributing to that. Also, make sure you're walking in kind of neighborhoods that are not super busy. If you're walking on Wilshire, I mean, it's such a busy street, that's going to put them on edge. We talked about cortisol. I think that both dogs have cortisol, probably more Midnight than Sushi, but that's going to amplify a lot of unwanted behaviors. So it's not that dogs are doing these things intentionally, they're just freaked out, and then the cortisol shuts down non-essential body functions. Now, some dogs are just very orally compulsive, and if that's the case, this would be a good time to get a lick mat out, put some peanut butter or yogurt on it, and give her something appropriate to lick on. Some of us, licking is a coping mechanism for a lot of dogs, so that might be what's going on there. I don't know, I'm not a vet. I'd want you to talk to a vet to know for sure. Let me see, so sniffing on walks, playing tug of war, playing with each other is fine, but at our puppy class, we don't let the puppies play past 50% of their energy range. As soon as they get 50%, what we usually do is try to do hand targeting. They come over to us, touch our hand, and we give them a treat. As we sit, give them a treat. Lay down, yes, and give them a treat. And have them do 5 or 6 things until that energy level comes down, then let them go play again. Now, Midnight is 10. She's not even a year. She's probably going to want to play with Midnight at times where Midnight is not going to want to play with her. So watch for reciprocal play. I understand it can sometimes she can finally get her to do it, but eventually one day Midnight might, an older dog, she might be needing some sleep. She might feel, her joints are pushed past her limit. She might not just want to. And one day she might turn around and snap. And so we don't want it to get to that point. So if you see that Sushi is trying to play with Midnight and Midnight is not reciprocating, take Sushi out for a little walk and leave Midnight here. Maybe give her a lick mat or play some exercises. Training is a great way to burn energy as well. Sniff walks, tug of war, playing fetch, and playing with each other as long as we're moderating that energy level. There's also mental exercise, feeding out of snuffle mats. I would recommend both dogs get a snuffle mat and are fed separately with their own mat. Let me see, I would also get, the Dog Guardian has lick mats. That's a great way to burn some energy. Kongs filled with peanut butter, bones with peanut butter and stuff like that as well. Puzzles, there's treat dispensing toys like the Omega Tricky Trainer treat ball. But there's all sorts of other puzzles. I like puzzles that are more balls as opposed to like sliders, because eventually the dog's like, and then they lick up all the treats, where a ball always going to roll and bounce a little bit differently. Let me see. There's also, like I said, training is a great way to burn energy. Scent games are great. So I want the Guardian to Google scent games and look for some scent games. So teaching the dog to look for treats. We went over Cookie in the Corner. I have a video for that. I'm happy to share with you if you have any questions on that. Forget how to do that. But those are also great ways to stimulate the dog. Feeding out of a snuffle mat is like a walk as well. So we feed out of the snuffle mat, have another treat dispensing toy for the other meal. We take them each for a walk once a day. We play Cookie in the Corner a couple times. We do a training exercise with each one of them twice, and we do the counter conditioning exercise above. The idea is to exercise about usually I say 2 to 4 hours. These dogs are probably closer to the 4-hour range. She might need it a little bit more because she's young pup. But the idea is to come up with a structured situation where we're taking care of their needs as opposed to the other. Don't leave them together. If you these dogs are fine, but I've had a lot of clients that are fostering another dog and they don't get along. They can somewhat get along, and eventually you just think they're fine, and you leave them, and there's a fight, and it can be really bad. So if you go back home or you're anywhere else and there's a dog and you're not sure, set up a long-term confinement area, separate them by rooms or whatever. I'd rather have them be a little bit distressed and not being able to be together than come home and find a dead dog or something along those lines. Let me see, what else? We went over rules, not being allowed to be in the kitchen when we're preparing food, not be around 7 feet of any human who's eating food, not be near each other. For dogs, if I have a dog and I want something from Sushi here, and she's got a bone, I'm just going to go invade her personal space, and that's my way of saying I want your bone. If she doesn't disagree with me, then she's kind of telling me I'm cool with you trying to take my bone. So we don't want to let it get to that. We don't want them to have to figure it out on their own. So if Midnight has a bone, we're not going to let Sushi go over to her. We're going to be the authority figure. Also try to incorporate those premax. The premax means a less desirable behavior earns you a more desirable behavior. If you sit, then I'll invite you on the couch. If you sit, I'll open the door to the outside. If you sit, I'll put your harness on, and then we'll go for a walk or something like that. It's not with a pet or a food or a treat. It's the behavior the dog wants is the reward, not some sort of another reinforcer. Let me see what else. The exercise above, the counter conditioning exercise. You want to practice that in short practice sessions. Really, all training sessions, maximum length of time should be 3 minutes. And you always, always, always want to end on a good repetition. That is the brightest memory the dog's going to have. That's what they're going to reference. Most of us get greedy. We push for too much. Then the dog doesn't perform well. We get mad at the dog. And then next time we want to practice at midnight, it's like, let's not do that. You got really mad last time we tried to do this cookie in the corner thing. Let's just hang out. So always end on a successful note. And also make sure you practice with a lot of variety. Don't just practice here, practice there, all over the place. Dogs don't generalize well. And if they are reactive out in your hallway, well, you have a busy building. Maybe find a time where everybody's at work where you can come home and practice walking them up and down the hallway without any dogs barking. They pass a dog, an apartment that has a dog that normally barks, they pass it and they don't bark. Not yes, and give them a treat. Take 10 steps, turn around and walk backwards. Yes, give them a treat. Have them practice walk. Have them sit right in front of that door. Yes, and give them a treat. So after a while, they're like, oh, we're coming up on 412. 412 means I'm going to get a bunch of treats. And then you could actually, if your 412 is like right here, as I'm walking, I say, Sushi, and she looks up and I've got a treat, and she's walking, looking up, and we walk right past that door, and then she gets a treat. And after we do that enough, that's kind of the normal behavior. Then she might walk past and the dog barks. She's like, I'll bark at you later, man. There's a treat right here. And then you pass the door and give her that treat, and she has no reason to bark because she's already passed it. So remember, when your dog has behavior problems, what we want to do is we want to recreate the situation in the easiest version possible and slice it up into little steps or segments. Practice segment 1, I know, over and over again so the dog's performing the way that you want for segment 1. Only then go to segment 2. If I go to segment 2 and the dog freaks out or reacts poorly, I might back up all the way to the previous step or back up a half step. We have to go to our dog's pace. We also talked about consent. A lot of people don't think, if I tell them this, they don't think about it this way, but most of us think of our dogs as slaves. We want them to do exactly what we want, when we want them to do it, without any deviation, and we don't want to have to pay them for doing it. That's pretty much the definition of a slave. We also want to look for signs of consent. So if I want to engage with a dog, I always hold my hand out, even for my dogs. And if my dog nudges my hand, he's saying, yes, I'm cool, and so I can pet quest. If I do this and he doesn't, I don't force the issue. The guardian here is very tactile, and she was, I think it was with Sushi, had some sleep in her eye. She was asleep, and she was trying to wipe that sleep out while Sushi was sleeping. That can turn some dogs into growling when I'm sleeping, you come near me. When they're sleeping or they have a high value item or they're eating, we shouldn't mess with them. I've seen a lot of people put the food down and then start petting the dog, and you mean it with affection, but the dog was like, you're messing with me, I'm doing something else. And a lot of dogs learn to nip and bite for this exact reason. So if your dog doesn't want to go in the shower because it doesn't like any showers, don't force it. So just, create a situation where we're going to go as close, put a trail of treats all the way in your shower. And the dog only stops at 6 feet away, that's your threshold. Then have the dog come to 7 feet. And every time it looks at the shower, yes, and give it a treat. Do that 5 or 10 treats 3 times a day. And the next time try to go to 6 feet. No, dog's able to do that because now getting near the shower means I get treats. Eventually get the dog to go in the shower. It might take you several days. And it goes in the shower. We're not turning the water on. We're not showering. Dog goes in there, gets yes and get a treat, let it leave. Comes back in, yes and get a treat. Keep on doing that. Then I might have the dog in the bathroom. Turn the shower on with the dog outside of the bath. So I just turn the shower on. They hear the sound of the water. They hear the splashing. I turn it off, say yes, and give the dog a treat. So I get used to the sound of the water without it actually impacting me. And then I might eventually get some warm water, put it on a washcloth, or might put my hand wet with warm water, get my dog's back wet a little bit, yes, and give him a treat outside of the shower. So we're doing all the individual steps in a very easy version, help the dog get conditioned and comfortable with that one step before we move to the next step, and eventually we combine all those steps together. Eventually you take the dog in the shower and turn the shower on, give it soapy suds, and the dog's like, I love this, I'm about to get a treat. All right, well, this is my buddy Sushi, midnight. So right there, you see she came, and that's how far she stopped, and she turned away. I didn't see what she did on her face, and she might just be used to being guarded. Midnight, come here, sweetheart. So what can I do? I can invite her up on this side. Well, this is Midnight, this is Sushi, this is their roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.